Titanic Hydra, Twitch, and Riftmaker Lillia are two new builds you'll want to abuse for 11.15, along with 8 other champs and setups we'll be breaking down for you guys that are flying heavily under the radar. But before we get into it, be sure to check out SkillCapped if you want to truly get better at League of Legends. We're the only service that offers a money-back guarantee if you don't climb at least 5 divisions while actively using our service. We do this because our service really does work, and if it doesn't work for you, you shouldn't pay. Learn more at the end of this video or click the link in the description for a special discount. So with all that said, let's get started. A very niche top lane pick who can dominate the meta saw a buff this patch to make her laning even stronger. Cassiopeia is who we're referencing, as she's an amazing pick into the likes of Set and Tahm Kench, who are being played at very high rates. Cass E buff offers her ridiculous all-in potential, and you can bet the enemy laner won't expect it at all. If you can learn a strong off-meta pick like Cass, your ability to find early solo kills and snowball a lead is greater than most meta picks. Fact is, if the enemy lacks an understanding of your damage thresholds at certain points in the lane, they'll play over-aggressively when they shouldn't, leading to free kills for yourself. Due to the strong, consistent DPS output from Cass, you can punish these positional errors extremely well. By running Phase Rush as your keystone, it makes it even more difficult for melee laners to function, as you've got ludicrous kiting potential. Conqueror is perfectly viable as well if you're laning into a less mobile top laner, to where the extra kiting power won't be as necessary. Core build is Liandry's into Archangels and Zhonya's. The new Riftmaker into Frozen Heart build is great too if you're against a very heavy AD composition. 11.15 Hullbreaker buffs have been a huge win for Trundle top lane, who so many players are sleeping on. The combination of Divine Sunderer Rush into Hullbreaker second is the ultimate 1v1 split push build. Spellblade procs from Divine Sunderer are so great for Trundle since his Q is on a 3.5 second cooldown. Add on the extra damage to towers from Hullbreaker combined with the Demolish rune, and you'll have some of the most relentless side lane pressure for any champ. If the enemy team leaves you alone in the split for more than a few seconds, they can wave goodbye to their base. Trundle is one of the few top laners who actually sees success into Aurelia and Set right now, so look to pick him up if you're in need of an answer for those two picks. The complete build is Divine into Hullbreaker and Titanic Hydra. Trundle lacks AoE wave clear, so Titanic helps to maul through those waves. Rune Page is Press the Attack with Triumph, Alacrity, and Last Stand. Be sure to take Demolish along with Bone Plating for secondaries. A brand new Lillia build has started to emerge over the past patch, which consists of a Riftmaker Rush into Cosmic Drive second. In comparison to the more popular Liandry's and Zhonya's, this Riftmaker build offers more consistent damage and sustain throughout fights. On 2-item completion with Lucidity Boots, you'll achieve 75% ability haste, which is the equivalent of 43% CDR. This drops Lillia Q cooldown to 2.3 seconds. The combination of such a short cooldown Q combined with the sustain and ramping damage from Riftmaker synergizes tremendously well. CDR in general is so amazing for Lillia because her ultimate is such a game-changing tool. Back in 11.16, the cooldown on Lillia ult was increased by 20 seconds at all ranks, so by running this haste-focused build, it helps alleviate that nerf. So the standard core build is a Riftmaker into Cosmic Drive and Zhonya's third. Run Dark Harvest as the keystone with Cheap Shot, Eyeball Collector, and Ravenous Hunter. Celerity and Water Walking are the best secondaries. A really great counter to some of the most played melee mid laners becomes even better for 11.15. Kennen saw a nice buff to his lane bully power as Q damage was increased by 10 at rank 1 and 30 at max rank. Meta champs you should look to pick Kennen into include Katarina, Sylas, and Yone. Play off your E cooldown and it's nearly impossible for those champions to jump on you and win a trade. You can continuously poke the enemy out as they go for last hits, and by running Electrocute as your keystone, you've got some sneaky bursts they won't expect. As if you weren't annoying enough by picking Kennen in the first place, you can run Resolve secondary with Bone Plating, which is a nightmare for melee champs to deal with. The build is pretty simple, as it consists of a Rocket Belt Rush into Zhonya's second and Rabadon's third. Another great mid laner you can use to shut down the contested meta picks is Jayce. Just like Kennen, Jayce fares extremely well into the likes of the most played mid laners, being Katarina and Sylas. The poke from Q and autos lets you whittle away at the enemy's health bar, and once you've got them in lethal range, dive in with Hammer Form to finish off the kill. Jayce is so obnoxious for these melee picks because your E and Hammer Form is such a great tool to swat them away. Rushing Eclipse provides Jayce with a nice chunk of burst, while the shield offers up extra durability to deal with the assassin mids. Second item is Manamune into a Cyrilda's Grudge or Serpent's Fang third. Phase Rush works super well as the keystone to kite out melee champions and always keep a safe distance. It's so easy for Jayce to proc, so the value of the keystone is very high. Secondary runes are Free Boots and Biscuits. By far the most unique and interesting setup we have to share today is for Twitch. This one is being played a ton in Korean solo queue and revolves around a Wits End rush into Hurricane 2nd and Titanic Hydra 3rd. The build has been on the rise over the past 2 patches now and has started to flourish as Twitch's #1 setup. Idea behind the build is very similar to why we see Tank Kog'Maw. Twitch is a low mobility marksman who lacks any self-peel, therefore if you're able to incorporate more defensive items and still deal strong DPS, it's the best of both worlds. The magic resist from Wits and 500 health from Titanic makes it way more difficult for assassins to take you out in fights. Not to mention the synergy Twitch ultimate has with Titanic and Hurricane gives him so much AoE damage potential. So your standard core build is Wits into Hurricane and Titanic. If the game goes super late, then a Black Cleaver 4th item works amazing. Titanic passive grants you AD based on bonus health, so Cleaver is great in that regard. Grab Lethal Tempo as the keystone with Presence of Mind, Alacrity, and Coup de Grace. Secondary runes are Taste of Blood and Ravenous Hunter. A new core build popping up on Aphelios completely eliminates Hurricane from your setup. For the longest time, Hurricane was a standard default 2nd item for Aphelios, but the Collector has emerged and is taking over that item slot. The Collector became a lot more efficient a few patches back when Aphelios saw multiple AD ratio buffs. Not only were his AD ratios buffed, but his bonus attack damage was increased as well. You have the ability to deal way more upfront burst damage now and become an absolute menace in the 1v1. Sure, Hurricane offers nice wave clear and can perform well in bunched up team fights, but the Collector is more consistent for the solo queue environment. You don't really see heavy frontline comps played often in solo queue, and if you're just dealing damage to one target, then the Collector will outperform Hurricane all day long. Core build is Immortal Shield Bow into the Collector 2nd and Infinity Edge 3rd. Run Conqueror with Presence of Mind, Bloodline, and Cut Down for primary runes. Taste of Blood and Ravenous Hunter are optimal secondaries. Another build gaining traction over in Korea that has yet to make its way to the western regions is a Serpent's Fang rush on Caitlyn. The Q-AD ratio buff Kate saw in 11.15 is a big factor as to why the build has become stronger. 20% extra AD scaling on Caitlyn Q at level 9 provides you with a solid amount of extra burst. In games where you're laning against a shield support like Lulu or Karma, then rushing Serpents is great value. For that matter, Lulu, Karma, and Yuumi each hold play rates above 10% in 11.15, so there will be many games where this build comes into play. Second core item will be the Collector, as you're going for a much more ability damage focused build than consistent auto DPS. Gale Force will round things out as your third purchase. Runes are super unique here as well. Dark Harvest will be run as the keystone with Taste of Blood, Eyeball Collector, and Ultimate Hunter. This will allow Caitlyn R to pack a massive punch and very easily assassinate those low health targets. Secondary runes are Presence of Mind and Alacrity. Fresh off a nice buff to her W cooldown 11.15, Rell is currently the most underrated support in the game. Her strength into meta picks like Leona, Thresh, and Nautilus is a major factor as to why you should be picking up the Iron Maiden. W, E, and Ultimate do an amazing job at shutting down dive supports, keeping your carries nice and safe. As for the W buff, it translates very positively for solo queue as it's her core engage tool. The shorter the cooldown on an engage ability, the more frequently you can look for picks and capitalize on the enemy's mispositioning. Core build is Lock It into Zeke's Convergence and Watchful Wardstone. Aftershock is Rell's best keystone with Font of Life, Bone Plating, and Unflinching. Be sure to take Hex Flash and secondaries along with Cosmic Insight. Blitzcrank is back on top of the support meta in 11.15, and if you're looking for a new hard carry build, then Everfrost and Dazanias fits the bill. The AP ratio on Blitz Q was buffed by 20% this patch, which gives these offensive setups a little more juice. Building AP and not having to rely on your teammates to follow up on your engages feels so nice. It's insanely tilting when you find that game-winning hook, but your entire team just stands there AFK like nothing happened. Hook into E and Ultimate will chunk for a massive amount on this 2-item completion, which allows you to get things done on your own. Everfrost root in combination with Blitz hook means the enemy ain't going anywhere when you land that grab. The Zanya's second item lets you get right up in a fight, fish for those aggressive flash hook plays, and then pop the stasis to stall as your team follows up. Your full build will look like an Everfrost and Dazanias, and then Watchful Wardstone. Take Guardian as the keystone with Font of Life, Bone Plating, and Unflinching. Secondaries are Biscuits and Cosmic Insight. Alright guys, before we wrap this up, let's tell you a little bit more about SkillCapped. So, we offer a 5-division rank up guarantee and think that's a pretty crazy thing to offer. It's like a gym membership guaranteeing you'll get ripped. Your local gym would go bust if they offered that, right? Not us. We've offered this for years because our service really does work. It works so well, in fact, that we're able to produce by far the largest catalog of premium league guides on the internet. We add over 20 videos a week. With over 1,600 guides curated into over 100 courses, no one can compare. We've also sent challenger players into ELO hell 629 times and counting, where they commentate how to carry live. They also respond to all questions asked. Sign up today for as little as $4.99 a month if you're serious about improving. So, those are all the underrated champs and builds we had to share with you guys today. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.